Welcome to my how-to guide of how to fit a CB Performance turbo kit. This is me, John, and these are my teammates, Phil Unsworth and Fiona Sinclair, and together we make up the NDA drag racing team. We're a team of 3 air-cooled mad racers from the northwest of the UK, and between us we have 3 race cars. Phil races the Black Sheep 2, which is a Volkswagen Beetle-based Nova kit car powered by a 1915 air-cooled turbo motor. And Fiona races a 2110 powered out of the blue drag beetle. As I'm doing a guide of how to fit the turbo kit, I thought I'd introduce the car that it's being fitted to and also talk about the history of it. So this is my race car, Little Horus, which is a 1956 Volkswagen Beetle. I've had the car since 2008 and started competing in various Run What You Brung events in 2009. I've raced the car at York Dragway, Shakespeare County Raceway and Santa Pod. The car's a 12-second street legal bug, which has had a load of upgrades over the years and far too many late night garage hours that can be contained in this 13-minute video. In 2014, myself and the rest of the NDA team joined the VW DRC, which is the Volkswagen Drag Racing Club, where we all now compete in their bracket racing class. So the current engine in the car, or should I say was in the car, was a 2180cc naturally aspirated motor running twin 48s. I then upgraded the engine to a 2276 motor, which for various complications I actually have never got to run because the crank let go just before we took the car to the rolling road. So I then needed a new engine rebuild, so I decided to upgrade it to a 2332 made by Andy Pearce over at Waterfoot in Lancashire. I then bought the CB Performance turbo kit and had it imported into the UK, and I'm hoping that with this turbo upgrade to Little Horus along with the 2332 motor that it's going to get the car running deep into the 11s. And if you want to learn more about the car, there's a complete build thread of Little Horus on the Volkszone forum, www.volkszone.com, I think. I'll put a link in the description of this video. There's also a link down there for the NDA drag team and the Volkswagen DRC. This is how the CB Performance kit arrived from the States when I got it in 4-bit boxes. If you go to part 1 of the build, part 1 is an unboxing video which will show you everything you get in the kit, and I'll put a link to the unboxing video below in the description. This is part 2, or what I'm calling part 2, and I'll try and keep each video to around 10 to 15 minutes. I should add that this kit is pretty complicated and it's not something that you can just fit in a weekend. I put a lot of hours into getting this installed and a lot of late nights in the garage. So along with the turbo kit I also bought some new tinware, and as most Volkswagen owners probably already know, aftermarket parts are a bit of a pain to fit anyway, and this tinware was no exception. I had to trim the bottom sections with a flat disc to make it fit. The cylinder head tin also had to be cut to accommodate the large inlet manifolds that come with the kit. So in the kit you get the 7366 Big Beef manifolds. You'll need to trim the tinware to get them to fit. Make sure you don't obviously trim too much, because this could affect the cooling of your engine. I've circled there the bits that I had to trim to accommodate the new larger manifolds. So I dry fitted everything to the engine first, the header and the J-tubes, to make sure that it all fitted correctly before I painted it. Like the tinware, it wasn't a perfect fit and everything needed a little bit of manipulating. The top pressure pipes that go to the pressure covers needed cutting down by around about 10 to 15 mil each side. This was because the pressure pipe was too long and was pushing on the pressure covers and not letting them make a good seal. The head itself was a nice bit of kit and fitted nicely to the front of the engine. However, the J-tubes wouldn't marry up to the header, and I had to try and bend and pull the J-tube as much as I dared to try and make them fit, and they didn't fit perfectly flush, which I wasn't that happy with, and I'm hoping that once I've got the engine running and the exhaust system gets hot, I might be able to move the pipes to get them fit a little bit better, but this might just be me being a bit of a perfectionist. I like to get them a little bit more square though. I decided in the end to paint the pipework with a high quality heat resistant paint. Ideally I would have liked to have done it get it ceramic coated, but it's far too expensive, so I've settled with a high quality heat resistant paint instead. In the future I might look about getting all the pipework remade in stainless. You also need to use 11mm or 7/16 nuts on the exhaust, as the standard 13mm or half-inch nuts won't fit due to the width of the pipework. As you can also see from this shot, I've also fitted the Fill-Star valve covers, which are again a nice bit of kit. They don't come drilled with the breather pipe, so you have to drill and install the breather pipe yourselves, and this is best done on a table drill. The kit doesn't come with the 2092 Megaspark crank trigger. You have to buy this separate, or you just ought to simply use your distributor. I bought the kit. Now the coil pack fastens to your fan house. I did this just by drilling the fan house and putting long bolts through it and securing them with locking bolts on the back, which is a massive pain. Whatever you do, don't fit your engine in the car without doing this job, or you'll end up having to take your engine back out to fit your coil back on your fan house, because there's just absolutely nowhere else in the engine bay where you can fit your coil pack. I'm really not sure what kind of idiot would make this mistake. Yeah, definitely not me. No. Next, I installed the trigger wheel along with the trigger wheel mount and for the crank VR sensor. As you can tell from this picture, the trigger mount was touching the crank pulley, and this had my head scratching for quite a few days to try and find a solution. In the end, I got a pulley wheel spacer kit from Volkswagen Heritage, which spaced out the bottom crank pulley wheel for about 1 mil, meaning that the sensor mounting no longer touched the pulley. You have to remove the top 2 case bolts to install the bracket. So with the trigger mounted, there's no need for your distributor, so you have to fit a blank. To do this, you have to remove the old dizzy drive by either using a long pair of pliers or a screwdriver, or you can actually buy a special tool to do this job. I just used 2 screwdrivers. But just be very careful, there are 2 space washers underneath the dizzy drive gear that you'll also need to remove. Don't let these fall in your engine, or else you will be in big trouble. I just used a magnet to remove these washers. Once the drive is out, remove the cap of the dizzy blank, slide the dizzy blank into position, insert the securing bolt, fasten that back up tight, and replace the cap on top. So I had the car resprayed last season, so was completely stripped down to its bare bones before I started this project. I had the gearbox rebuilt by John Walkett, who's based over at Stoke-on-Trent in the UK, and I had all the parts of the rear suspension powder coated in a candy apple red, and started the rebuild and install of the gearbox and all the suspension parts for the car, along with a new Black Magic clutch on a Kennedy Stage 2 pressure plate. Once the engine was fitted, I replaced the big beef manifolds and added the header and the turbo back on the engine. The kit comes with 2 gaskets for the turbo. I used the larger of the 2, as this would give more airflow to the turbo. I've highlighted the larger gasket there that comes with the kit. You need to fabricate the turbo exhaust outlet pipe by drilling and welding the Wideband O2 sensor into the pipe. I'm not too sure why CB don't do this, but they don't, so it's something you've got to do yourself. Make sure the sensor is in the correct position. Too far away from the turbo and it'll give you a bad reading, and too close to the turbo and it'll burn the sensor. I was unsure of the correct position, so I contacted Pat Downs over at CB Performance, who told me the correct place to put the sensor as shown in that picture. So moving on to the oil system, and presuming like me, if you're running this turbo kit, you're already running a full flow oil system. I soon discovered that with the turbo in place, it sits far too close to the case that I couldn't get my return oil feed to connect. To solve this problem, I had to get a 90-degree elbow section to fit onto the case and point down so I could fit the return oil line. This fitting should be a 3/8 NPT fitment, the same as your case. The return oil feed from the turbo to the sump comes in 5 pieces from CB, and it's a bit of a crap design, made from a straight tube section, a section of rubber pipe and 2 brass fittings. Now this seemed problematic to me, as you can probably see from this picture. The pipe could have leaked from 5 different places, and as most Volkswagen owners know, keeping oil inside the engine is a nightmare at the best of times. So with this in mind, I scrapped the CB design and I had a pipe made up at a local hydraulic place. It fits from the bottom of the turbo and runs into the extended oil sump. The oil sump that comes with the kit is a 1 1/4 extended oil sump, which is the metric equivalent to 1.5 litres. There is an extended oil pickup that comes with the kit that needs welding onto the original pickup. You then bolt the new extended sump onto the original bolts at the bottom of your engine. You can also see on this picture the return oil feed that goes to the external oil cooler. Now, of course, this kit doesn't come with an external oil cooler, but if you are running a big turbo motor, it's highly recommended. My oil cooler fits on the near side of the gearbox, and the feed goes to the top of the oil cooler, then back out the bottom, standing vertical. I made a bracket which the oil cooler fits into with an external fan, and I have also had the oil cooler mounting bracket powder coated red to match the rest of the rear suspension setup. So the top turbo oil feed that comes from the kit is a nicely made steel braided pipe with swivel ends. I'm not sure why they didn't do this with the bottom return pipe, but they didn't. It comes with a T-section that splits from the oil pressure switch that feeds the top of the turbo. In my opinion, the pipe probably could have been done with 5mm longer, as the pipe only just fits to the bottom of the turbo. But that's where it mounts, as you can see on that picture. So as you can see, the bench is slowly thinning out, and I'll probably leave this video here and start working on part 3, where hopefully I'll talk about the fuel lines, fitting of the charge cooler, the return feed to the tank, and mounting of the ECU. So until next time, hopefully I'll have part 3 up soon. This video is a video of my 1776 turbo motor that I used to run. I did a 13-second run in this, but well, that's a different story altogether. That's it for part 2. Stay tuned for part 3.